evening. Buenas noches. Welcome bloggers in the United States and winemakers here in Chile to our wine blogger tasting covering the topic of master terroir in Chile. Tonight is a very, very special night for us bloggers because we're broadcasting live here in Santiago at the Gen Suite Hotel. We have 12 amazing winemakers with us this evening to cover topics about Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, Carmenere, and Cabernet Sauvignon, and specific terroirs they grow in. It's an amazing night for us to talk about terroir. On my many trips here, I've learned a lot about the terroir in Chile, a word that describes essentially the sense of place a wine can transmit from the vine to the grapes to the glass. Now, the concept of terroir is still a bit new to wine professionals in regards to Chile, but I guarantee you this evening you'll hear a lot about terroir from these 12 winemakers and just how important it is to them in each bottle and each drop of great wine we will taste tonight. Now, with this idea in mind, we will be discussing a few concepts of terroir this evening. One we'll start with is a new concept of terroir, new vineyards being planted over the past 15 years, from the north to the south, to the east, to the west, crawling up the Andes Mountains all the way to the coast. The second topic we'll talk about are some of the more established terroirs that are starting to gain new life from this idea of terroir. Grape varieties like Carmenere, Cabernet Sauvignon, valleys like Cachapal, Colchagua, and Maipo. We're going to cover Chile's vast landscape from north, south, east to west, talk to 12 winemakers, taste 12 wines, and really roll up our sleeves and dig in the dirt to talk about this. Now, first off, the new regions we'll talk about, and grape varieties like Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Syrah are thriving in these newly developed areas, north, south, east, west, to the coast. We're going to be talking about Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Noir. And these two grape varieties have enjoyed home run success in the United States as wines in retail and restaurants, and have enjoyed amazing success here in Chile in these vineyards we'll speak about. The second group of wines we're going to be speaking about in the second concept, we'll be talking about Carmenere and Cabernet Sauvignon, and really digging in to some of the older areas, again, Maipo, Colchagua, Cachapal. All right? Our lineup of wines tonight is quite vast. And bloggers, you probably have a lot of glassware out. You have a lot of bottles out. Normally we do this with 8, but tonight we have 12. So hopefully you have your friends over, your families over. You've cooked some great food. You got some music playing. You got your questions queued up. You got some great food. So big lineup of wines tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, the tasting tonight will be broken up into 4 teams of winemakers, each covering a specific grape variety. The first grape variety we'll be talking about tonight is Sauvignon Blanc. We're going to talk to 3 winemakers from Casablanca, Lleida, and Colchagua about this grape variety and why it's thriving here. We're going to talk about Pinot Noir with our second team, where we have all wines from Casablanca. And you're in for a treat tonight because I will be filling in for one of the winemakers, the great Adolfo Hurtado from Connoisseur. Let's see if I can play my best Germanic version of Adolfo tonight. I was joking around with the winemakers earlier about that. And the third team tonight will be broken up into 3 groups. We'll be covering Colchagua and Cachapal with Carmenere, a grape variety that is fairly new, 15 years to Chile, but it's been here for over 150 years. Our fourth and final team will talk about the king grape of Chile, Cabernet Sauvignon, a grape that put this great country on the map in terms of quality of wines. So it's going to be very interesting tonight. So bloggers, if you're out there, make sure to put your wines into these groups. We're going to be taking group discussions where the winemakers will join me from each of these groups. So we'll have 3 winemakers at a time. We'll be discussing each of these topics one at a time. We'll have about 20 minutes or so for each topic. So please get your questions queued up for us. Remember, this year we're taking the question, or this tasting, we're taking the questions on the chat board. But please feel free to keep the Twitter feed going with hashtag #BlogChile. Make sure to hit us up on @DrinkChile. Hit us up on Facebook. But it's really, really important tonight to put your questions up on the chat board. We have great winemakers that I'll introduce. If you have questions specific to each winemaker, please address them to any winemaker you want to talk to, because we have the opportunity to speak directly to them tonight. We're going to have a little group discussion also, so please, after you taste a few of the wines together, and if you have a question of why these three wines taste so much different or why they taste the same, we're going to have a little group discussion. We're going to have a little more fun tonight with this than normal, because I actually can speak to them rather than being, 5,000 miles away in a different hemisphere. Now, bloggers, please hit the boards. We're really excited for you. I've seen some of the tweets. It's great to be back here with you all. This time we're in Chile. It's going to be even better. So I want to introduce the winemakers, the most important people of tonight. And tonight we have, to start off with our group, with Viña Casablanca in the Sauvignon Blanc, Team Sauvignon Blanc. We're going to pan over here to Jimena Pacheco. So Jimena, welcome back.
Thank you. Hi.
Awesome. So Jimena is coming to us from Casablanca. We have from San Pedro Winery in Leda, maybe wines from Leda, Sauvignon Blanc from Leda. We have Gonzalo Castro. Welcome, Gonzalo. His first blogger tasting. All right. So our third Sauvignon Blanc tonight will be the Costa Silva Cool Coast, and we have Arnaud Fernet, another veteran blogger tasting winemaker. Welcome back, sir.
Hi, Frank. Hi, everyone.
Excellent. Now, bloggers, our second team is Team Pinot Noir, and with us we have Emilio Contreras, and we have him from Viña Emiliano. He'll be showing us the Novus Pinot Noir.
Hi, Frank.
Welcome back, sir. Great to have you. Filling in for Connoisseur will be me. We have some fun discussions there. But from Morande, kind of the representing the original concept of Casablanca wines from Morande, we have Ricardo Bettig. Welcome back.
Hi, everybody. Hi, guys.
Excellent. We're going to move on to Team Carmenere. And for Team Carmenere, we're going to start off from Conchitoro. And we have, Marcelo Papa, we have Sebastian. Yes, so Sebastian, thanks for joining us. Great leader, Conchitoro. We have from Coile in Ochago, we have Cristobal Unduraga.
Hi, everybody.
And from Carmen, we have Sebastian Labe. Excellent. Now, our last conversation will be Cabernet Sauvignon. We're going to start the tasting off with Alejandro Joffre from Maquis. Welcome.
Hi, Frank. Hi, everybody.
We're going to have wine number 11. We're going to move to the Maipil Valley to Ventisquero with Felipe Toso. Welcome, Felipe.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Frank.
Thank you, sir. Nice to see you again. And finishing off our conversation tonight will be Marcelo Gallardo from Los Vascos.
Hi, guys.
Excellent. So, bloggers, I hope you have your Sauvignon Blancs ready. I'm going to bring up our winemakers in just a second. So get your glasses ready, get your wines poured. Hopefully you have some nice fresh fish, some salads, some ceviche, some sushi ready to go. And winemakers, you want to come on up, grab your glasses. Yeah. Let's get the fun started here. You guys ready to rock? We're going to talk a lot about rocks. We're going to talk a lot about dirt. We're going to talk about clouds, the sun, and the sky. And we have three great winemakers here. And I'm playing the role of bartender host. So we're going to pour a little of the Nimbus Sauvignon Blanc from Casablanca. Wine number 1. Correct. Perfect. So, Jimena.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
So good to see you again. It's so nice to have a lady amongst these kind of rough and tumble gentlemen. So tell us a little bit, we've talked about this wine, but tell us what I really want to know from each of you, and what the bloggers really want to know out there is, what are you aiming for? What does Casablanca bring to the glass? The smells, the flavors, the textures. And then tell us a little bit about your winemaking, and tell us a little bit about the terroir. So get in the glass. Get in the glass, guys. Yeah.
Okay, well, first of all, this is a Sauvignon Blanc from Casablanca, which is 100% stainless steel fermented. And I would say it's a very, very delicate, elegant wine. We look for the nose, like white flowers. It's a very citric wine, which is a very, typical characteristic in a Casablanca Valley. And then the most important thing I would say for us is the structure of the wine, the texture. It's very creamy. And in order to get that, we have to pick at the right time. It's all, of course, hand-picked, carefully selected. We just pick whatever is ready to go to the winery, then we just go straight to the press. It's very active in absence of oxygen. And then pure stainless steel, as I was saying, fermented very cold, and selected yeast, to rescue all those aromas that we have. And then basically it's a fermentation that lasts for around 3 weeks. After that, we stir the leaves a lot in order to get that creamy texture. It's a wine that it's good to be, paired with food. So it's not just for a terrace and drink and,
So we encourage the bloggers to have food. So hopefully they're enjoying some nice fish and ceviche type
great.
foods with
That's
these
great
wines.
for
Yeah.
everyone. So as I said, white flowers, big like passion fruit, pink fruit. That's kind of a description in the nose. And then, very delicate. It's for the. We don't intervene that much. There's no barrels here. There's nothing more. It's basically the soil, the climate, different lots, not blend. So that's the main thing. It's very, very pure, and this is what we're looking for: elegance and good texture.
So when you say different lots, you're taking different parts of your vineyard, and
Yes.
whatever you find is the best parts.
Exactly. There's a part that's in the flatter areas. It's more intense in the nose, and then if we go as we approach to the hillside, there's more concentration, more structure, and that's at the end what the final blend, is all about.
And is that selection done in the vineyard, or sometimes both in the vineyard and in the winery, or?
Well, first in the vineyard, we already know the lots pretty well, and they all are fermented separated, so we can keep full control, and then the final blend is made at the end, like right before bottling, basically.
And tell us a little bit about, these plots, right? So you have all these different, these vineyard spots. Are there some that year after year just are the best spot? No matter what, always make it into your best wines. And then that terroir, what is special about those particular parcels?
Well, I would say, as I was explaining, especially the parts that are on the hillside, at the beginning of the hillside, is not really steep. We have granitic soils, granitic origin soils in Casablanca.
Granitic.
Yes.
Is that a word Mazzone? Granitic? There's a word for that.
Oh.
We'll talk about that in a second. But
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but granitic soils, almost you can crush them with your hand, very friable. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you have the rock, but the rock is very easy to penetrate with the roots. So it's very interesting. It gives you a lot of minerality. So that's why we have different areas. They're all, as I said, normally the same lots that we already know that are going to be Lindos at the end.
Excellent. Bloggers, keep your questions coming out. We'd love to hear from you. Jimena, thank you very much. Casablanca is the original spot, right, for Sauvignon Blanc, and we'll talk a little bit to Ricardo Morande about that genesis. But I really love the texture of this wine. Like you said, I always find Casablanca having this creaminess to it. And I was curious about, is it winemaking or is it the terroir? So it's a little bit of both.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
And
so-
the acidity, then the acidity which is very deep and intense. That's another characteristic.
Longer, this wine reminds me of a song called We Belong by Pat Benatar, because Sauvignon Blanc belongs here. And is a great female rocker. Jimena reminds me of that spirit of that female rocker. So
Cool.
how do you like that pairing?
Great.
Cool. Pat Benatar, We Belong. Cue it up on YouTube. All right, so we'll move on a little bit here to Leda. And why don't you guys can move in a little bit, and maybe I'll make a little shift here. Yeah, come over here so I can, yeah. Oh yeah, so, please. Of course. What is it like being the only female winemaker in the group?
Again.
You got to get your friends out here.
I know what's going on. No, it's great. I know most of the guys, so it's fun, and they treat me well, I think.
Yeah, the spirit of camaraderie here was quite nice when we were in the elevator in the hotel here, and there was a lot of fun. And in Chile, what's the percentage of female winemakers? Just not necessarily head, but also assistant winemakers and women working as enologists.
Well, many winemakers, at least, I don't know, 30-40%. There are many girls working in the industry, and we hope more and more,
Yeah, I see it more and more. Friends of mine move to New Zealand or California and start making wine. So ladies, if you love wine, there's a lot of female bloggers out there. You can always, you've already tried to think about changing careers. You can come to Chile, move some barrels, what else do you do? Some punch downs. You can, have a lot of fun with these guys. So, well, thank you, Jimena. Awesome. So Casablanca, we'll revisit Casablanca again, but we're going to move on, bloggers. So 1865, the San Pedro Sauvignon Blanc from the Leda Valley. So we have Gonzalo Castro here to talk all about this wine. So Gonzalo, welcome. Hey. All right. You're welcome. De nada. Here we go. I spent some time with Gonzalo at San Pedro on my last trip here, and doing great things. So tell us a little bit about, same thing, with Jimena. Tell us a little bit about, the nose you're trying to achieve, the flavors, structure, a little bit about the winemaking, and tell us about this plot that you're picking this from.
Okay, here we go. So this wine is 100% Sauvignon Blanc, and it's from Leda Valley. Basically, Leda is a little bit cooler than areas in Chile, but I think it's really interesting to produce Sauvignon Blanc in many, many places along to the coast. We have a lot of coast, really long country.
How many miles of coast is Chile?
4,000 kilometers.
4,000 kilometers of coast. That's a whole lot of area to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. And this Sauvignon Blanc, I think it's interesting because of the flavors and aroma. Has some aromas like a lychee, has some notes like citrus notes, and little notes of asparagus, also some notes, gooseberries, some grapefruit. I think it have a lot of complexity. And the mouthfeel, I think it's really tasty.
We're not used often enough in talking about wine. Bloggers, you got the tech sheet. I don't know if any of them said tasty, but all of these wines are tasty.
Yeah,
That's crazy. Yeah. So you're happy with this? You should be. It's a great bottle of wine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a full body, Especially non-final, use faster. That palate, nice. I feel also the acidity, but some grapefruit. I think it's interesting, right? A full body, and I think it represents really well the Leyda Valley, Yeah, because normally it has, more complicated grain. I think a little bit more complex, but it's really nice.
So talk a little bit about Leyda. Leyda is a little bit more extreme. Casablanca was planted first, and then let's go further. And you are 4 kilometers, about 4 kilometers, which is 2.5 miles to the ocean. You said you can see the ocean from these vineyards. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, something winery in Leyda in 2005. But, we planted the vineyards just 4 kilometers from the coast. And it's really funny, when you are in the vineyard, you can see the Pacific Ocean. And then also when you walk around during close to the harvest time, you can feel the sea salt on the skin of the grapes,
Interesting. And do you think that transmits something?
Yeah, I think so, because I think also as well the wines have some salty notes,
Interesting.
But I think it's interesting, and also the climate. It's cool climate area, like maybe Casablanca or Roabaca.
They're both the same climate, correct? As Champagne, like on the scale of climate.
Yeah, maybe. But in Leyda,
exceedingly so.
Yeah. But in Leyda we have also some granite soil, some decomposed granite there, some limestones, and also, but in Leyda we have some current deposits there. And sometimes you can feel some minerality there, but not really heavy. But but Leyda, I think you can get a lot of interesting things in for Sauvignon Blanc. I don't know. Sometimes you can get more, some minerality or some fruity style. So depends what are you looking for. Yeah. But normally I think Leyda it's really well known around the world, for the good Sauvignon Blanc, maybe some good Pinot, and some good. But I think it's for the like a terroir, because have good condition for we have a cool climate there. We have a good soil condition there. I think it's an amazing place to produce Sauvignon Blanc. And for San Pedro, I think it's a really interesting place, and I think this wine, it's really amazing wine, and I love it.
Excellent. Well, if you're not convinced by Gonzalo about this wine, you are now. And Waters, I hope that, one of the conversations I'd love to have with you in your questions are the differences. I think we went out of the gate here with Casablanca and a Leyda, and they couldn't be any more different than each other. Yeah. And, that's the beauty. I think they both speak Sauvignon Blanc. They're both unequivocally Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah. But they speak different languages. Yeah, absolutely. Because we're both human beings, but I don't speak as much Spanish as you guys do. But and I think that's very interesting. You're talking white flowers and delicacy and this roundness, and you're talking about this salinity and this asparagus and saltiness and a very different take on it. How close to the coast? 4 kilometers, 2.5 miles to the coast is what.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's interesting. How close to the coast are you in Casablanca?
12 miles.
12 miles, so 18 or so kilometers.
18 kilometers.
Yeah, and I think you're one of the western spots.
Yes, we're in the coolest part of the valley, like closer to the ocean.
Yeah. So I think you can see the extremeness of this wine, and I always thought about it as extreme. And you get this long ripening situation that Sauvignon Blanc just gives you this more pungent style, let's say, to the more kind of round and creamy style that you get in Casablanca.
Yeah, but we also I think it's interesting to the vines are located just 4 kilometers from the sea. Yes, absolutely.
In Chile,
but depends. Depends.
Are you the closest? Are you one of the closest vineyards to the sea?
I don't know. I'm not really sure, but maybe I don't know. Just it's interesting. For me it's funny because I have a lot of fun when I'm here. I'm there on the vineyards, walking around. I can see the ocean. I think it's interesting. But I don't really know if I'm where the closer vines to the sea. But
Well, 2.5 miles sounds pretty close to me.
yeah, so it's interesting. It's a concept of single vineyard because the vineyards, small vineyards, call it Las Gaviotas.
Las Caviotas.
Yeah.
The caveat?
Yes, yeah, and
Wedged between...
no,
Eagle? Eagle?
Oh, no, Eagle.
Sorry.
Ah, perfect.
Call it yeah. So vineyard, we have low yield, but I think it's more interesting to talk about the Leda style, or Leda Sauvignon Blanc.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this is a great wine blogger, so, to me, the most interesting thing about the Sauvignon Blanc conversation is that we have 3 different wines. This wine, when I close my eyes, this wine reminds me of Dick Dale, the surfer music, because it makes me want to go to the ocean. It makes me want to go to the sea. So I cue up a little Dick Dale, Miser Lou, and that song from Pulp Fiction, and pull a bottle of Leda Sauvignon Blanc, you're in business. All right, so Arnaud, come on up, man. And so we just talked about the 2 kind of pioneering regions for Sauvignon Blanc. And mind you, blogger, Sauvignon Blanc has been growing in Chile for quite a long time. But with the coast now, we've opened up a whole new world where this grape thrives on the influence of the Pacific Ocean, thrives in these cool places. And we think about these in these pioneering areas, but wineries like Casa Silva and even wineries like Errázuriz in Aconcagua and now in Maipo Valley, some of these big red wine regions that you think about great red wine are starting to push out to the coast in their respective regions. So tell us a little bit about, the idea behind this wine, the nose. We just tasted these 2 wines. Feel free to play off some of the differences in flavor, texture, because I think this is a complete unique expression as well.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting, the tasting and seeing the 3 regions together. It's not often that you have that opportunity, so I'm personally learning a lot also right now. But just when I hear also Jimena about the winemaking, I think the 3 wines are pretty much similar in terms of the winemaking. The difference is mainly from the terroir.
Yeah.
And in Colchagua, as you said, Colchagua was known for red wine since it's known. It's basically there's been mainly for red wine, and we've been looking for an area, a fresher, cool area in the valley, and basically moving to the coast. And if we compare to Leda or Casablanca in terms of terroir, I think the soil is not so much different. We have a lot of that granitic decomposition, which is all granite rock, but becoming almost like softer, and lots of quartz in it. So very good for the minerality. But the difference, I would say, well, first, Colchagua, we are about 100 kilometers south of Casablanca, maybe 80 kilometers south of Leda. So we're a little bit further south. That doesn't change so much in terms of temperature, but we might be a little bit fresher. In terms of distance to the coast, we are about 8 kilometers from the coast,
Okay.
but we are quite high up. In fact, our vineyard of this Sauvignon Blanc is at about 150 meter above the sea level, which is similar to some area of Colchagua at the foot of the Andes.
Yes.
So it's quite high.
That's very high.
And so with a lot of the breezes,
Elevation and the influence of the ocean.
like,
So very long growing. Yeah.
and so just to situate more or less where we are, in terms of the aromas, I think if we go a little bit less on the generous fruit and more on the crispiness, and there's also white flowers, a lot, and of course citric, but it's really proper to the place apparently. Yeah, you can almost taste the sea, like you were saying, you taste the salt in it. I think here the freshness, the crispiness.
It's almost as if like a peak of sea salt.
Yeah.
When it's pumped into the wine, and you get that like bit of
How to turn
when you lift it from eating something salty, a French fry or a pretzel or something.
In fact, it's a wine I like very much to decant it, just a little bit. It's really, really good.
Water.
Not so much.
Decanting white wine. There are certain white wines that you can. I think any of the three of these white wines you could decant for various reasons. Whether it's Piña Casablanca for texture, whether it's for Leda for aromatics and to bring that broadness out about it. And for this, I think there's things in here that are very shy.
Yeah. If you really want to get the most out of it, just leave it a little bit more in the glass. Well, on the palate, the finish, that's where you taste typical, what we call the mycel, typical soil of that area.
Yeah.
Crisp, very mineral.
I think that's an interesting point about letting the wine open up. Bloggers, you'll notice, I sent a tweet out to you about the big glasses, and we had a little Sauvignon Blanc glass, and I showed all three winemakers have the big glass. So in decanting, you can almost decant a wine in a big glass. If you have a couple ounces, let it warm up, let it breathe, and I think that's really one thing, especially with white wines. I think we serve them too cold and in a small glass.
Yeah.
And all of you were very excited about the big glass. Yeah. So, good point for your readers, good point to write about the big glass for white wines. Could you talk about the elevation again?
Yeah, that place we are 450 meters above sea level, so that's what 1,200 feet.
Yes, about 1,300 feet.
So actually in Colchagua, we are at the foothills of the Andes at the same elevation, because the Andes are like a big world, and we have a lot of hills. And once you get to the ocean, we have the coastal range, and we are just on top of the coastal range, slopes starting going down to the ocean.
So you
quite high.
Planted at the same elevation with Sauvignon Blanc as Cabernet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's completely different temperature.
Different temperature, different. So maybe anyone can answer this. How close can they plant? So can you say what your space, how many plants you have per hectare or per acre?
I'm not sure if how close to the ocean can we plant?
Well, how close are your vines together? I think let's start there.
Density,
yeah.
there we are about 5,000 plants per hectare.
Okay. So what about you guys?
Yeah, the same. Yeah.
Okay. So again, a lot of the same, we make the wine very similar. Some of the plantings are very similar, but this is a unique expression of each of their respective terroirs. So I'll just open this up a little bit to the group and tell us about some of the experimentation. So Arnaud, tell us a little bit about, we spoke a little bit earlier, bloggers. I got the opportunity to speak with most of the winemakers, and you were talking about some things that are going on in this vineyard. So tell us a little bit about the experimentation. Bloggers, we're all curious. We want to know what's next, what's new. So
yeah, well, actually, we have quite a big project there on coastal Colchagua, and the Sauvignon Blanc has been the first step of it. But in a few weeks, we'll be launching a Pinot Noir from the same place, which is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I hope one day we can bring it to the blogger tasting.
Bloggers who want to taste some Pinot Noir from Colchagua, from the coast, I'm sure all of you. Very interesting stuff.
We actually planted the Pinot Noir together with the Sauvignon Blanc, but it took a little bit more time to get to the quality we were looking for. And then we also planted Syrah, Chardonnay, and Sauvignon Gris there. We had the first harvest of Chardonnay and Syrah in 2012 this year. The Syrah is really interesting. It's too early experimentation, but it's really, really interesting.
I know, right?
Oh, any experimentation with other grape varieties in Leda, in your vineyard?
No, actually in Leda we are working just with Sauvignon Blanc, and at the moment we have more new projects in areas, but actually just for this vineyard it's Sauvignon Blanc.
Is there anything that you want to divulge to the bloggers, anything interesting that you have up your sleeve with San Pedro?
Oh yeah, maybe. We are working really hard in Elqui Valley. Maybe you
The
know
furthest region, North Bloggers, really cool area that was known for pisco, but great Syrah, Jimenez, Carmenere growing there, and what
Yeah, but actually we have some vineyards close to the sea again. So we are working with some Sauvignon Blanc, some Syrah from cool climate. And also we have new projects for Chardonnay and, you know, yeah, and Elqui, absolutely. And maybe think in the U.S. market.
Roger, look out for Gonzalo's LT project. And I've seen some of your vineyards, but tell us what you're up to in Viña Casablanca and what's happening with some of your new stuff.
Oh, great, interesting new project on our hillside. It's basically Pinot Noir, Syrah, which we already have, but this is very extreme. It's high, it's very steep, right into the rock. So it's going to be very, very different.
And what's the composition of the rock?
It's all granitic rock. So
granitic rock.
Exactly. So it's, as I said before, it's very easy to fracture, so the roots can really penetrate. Good retention of humidity, so that's pretty good for the vine. And different clones, different. Actually, for me, what's more interesting is the different exposures. You know, some parts of the vineyard are facing west, so they get the straight influence of the wind that comes from the Pacific, which is actually much cooler than the morning side or the east side. So I think we're going to have many different components for a final blend. This is not in production yet, so we need to wait at least 2 more years in order to get the first grade. But I think it's going to be really interesting and very, very different from what we already have.
And this is Sauvignon Blanc?
It's Pinot Noir and Syrah.
And
exactly, and red grapes.
And there's some soil change up there. It gets a little bit more red.
Yes,
is that oxidative? It's
a little bit more.
Yeah.
A little bit more. I mean, it's as well as the others too. We're located in the coastal range in Chile, which is the one closer to the ocean. So that's kind of the old soil. It's much older than the Andes range. So there's a difference and different soils. Very interesting. I think it's in Casablanca at least we don't have limestone, but these wines are much more expressive in terms of the nose. Not as restrained as when you have limestone, but then in the mouth are very, deep and like intense. So there's a very different expression of varieties as like Syrah and Pinot that, we normally know Burgundy. So this is another different, very, very different expression for the same variety. So it's very interesting.
Very interesting. Well, we've heard a lot about Sauvignon Blanc bloggers. Remember to keep your questions going on the chat board. We will come back to a group discussion at the end. So if you do have any questions we couldn't cover, please feel free to jump in at the end of our discussion. But I want to give you guys, and ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. Damas y caballeros, thank you very much. Sauvignon Blanc. And I know I forgot to give you a pairing. I'm thinking out in the coast in Colchagua. I'm thinking it's like the Beach Boys, good vibrations. I think there's good vibrations going out to the coast for all regions of Chile. So, thank you. Thank you. Bloggers? Awesome. So, bloggers, we're going to bring up Team Pinot Noir. Please come up, guys. So our second grade, stand a little closer here, jump in. Bloggers, we're figuring out our space here. We want to be cozy and comfortable like you are at home. And Pinot Noir is a very, very, very important grape for us to the U.S. And it's an interesting grape for us in that before the movie Sideways came out in 2005, many of these wineries had been experimenting with Pinot Noir, working with consultants from Burgundy, France, California, Oregon, New Zealand, Australia, and really starting to pay attention to this great variety. And today, I think Pinot Noir in Chile stands in a really amazing place because they're making incredible wine, the plants are starting to mature, they're figuring out where to plant it, and it's really exciting times for Pinot Noir. And as the world has more of a thirst for Pinot Noir, Chile is there to quench it. So we're going to talk a little bit about 3 Pinot Noirs from the Casablanca Valley. We're going to be focusing specifically on Casablanca, what I like to call the OG of the coast, staying in that concept of the new kind of terroir hunting in Chile. And we have with us Emilio Contreras from Emiliana and Ricardo Bettig. Both are veterans of the lager tasting, and I will be filling in for, if I say anything wrong for Adolfo, please feel free to jump in and tell me where I'm incorrect. All right. So, bloggers, hopefully you put a touch of a chill on these wines. I think any Pinot Noir is better, at about 55 degrees. And we chilled ours today. So we're going to start off with the Novice from Emiliana. I had the pleasure of spending some time with you in the vineyards, in your Colchagua vineyards, and it's really amazing. Emiliana is one of the largest, if not the largest, organic winery vineyard in the world, committed to sustainable everything you can imagine. Really cool stuff. But Emilio, tell us, your winery is in Colchagua, but here we are tasting some Casablanca Pinot Noir. And tell us a little bit about, do you have to switch hats with that, or let's talk about the wine in the glass, some of the nose, some of the palates, and the textures you get, and what's the philosophy of winemaking here, versus some of the other projects you have?
Yeah, well, what we're trying to do is trying to have one of the best wines in every different valley. In this case, we are our winery is our cellar is in Colchagua, but we have different grapes from Casablanca, Maipo, Colchagua too. So basically, this idea in the Pinot Noir is. Colchagua, we were talking about Casablanca, has a lot of influence from the sea, cold wind, from foggy morning to cloudy morning as well. So this Pinot Noir has a lot of relation with the place. That's what we're trying to print in every wine that we make, trying to offer to the people a kind of print of the place where the grapes are coming from. So we in this Pinot Noir we are located in a specific place called La Vinilla. It's going from Santiago, beginning of the valley, and
so you're more eastern.
Yes. And we are very close to the coastal range. That gives us a very good chance because we have in the same vineyard different altitudes and in a specific different type of soil. We're going from the clay to the loam soil. This particular wine is between clay and loam. It's red soil. The red soil in all of our vineyards give us a lot of complexity, some kind of tones, minerality. Pretty good.
So as you get further out, it's more granitic. As you get further to the east, further to the coast, more granitic, further to the east, more loam, more clay, heavier, richer kind of soils.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the idea is in this wine we started about middle of March with the first picking the first grapes, trying to have part of the blend something more fresh with high acidity, more elegant, more mineral. And then 2 weeks later, we picked the grapes, looking for something more mature. Exactly. It's about 2 to 3 weeks difference in time. But yeah, that's the idea, to have a part more fresh and a part more mature. And the second part, we're trying to look for red berries, strawberries, something like that. And then the harvest and all the winemaking, it's trying to make a maturation. All maturation is about 8 degrees Celsius, which is 45 degrees Fahrenheit. It's very cold. We leave the grapes for 3 to 5 days, trying to extract all the flavor from the skins, and then start the fermentation, only increasing the temperature of the tank. It's made by wild yeast, and the fermentation is about a week. The juice has a lot of nutrients in Casablanca, so the wild yeast is very happy. And then finish the fermentation, and we leave it for a couple of days. And the maceration, racking the wine in the interesting thing for us is trying to not cover all the wine with barrels. This is a very delicate wine, so we only put a part of this wine in French barrels, 25 to 30% of the French barrels, and then we will leave all the rest of the wine in the stainless steel tank, trying to conserve the fruit.
So that's an interesting thing. So what I understood, and it's interesting, you say you're picking two picks. You obviously get different levels of acidity, different levels of sugar, which have two different wines altogether. If you fermented them, you could probably ferment them. But then you're taking it one step further with the stainless steel and the oak, and it almost is the same concept. To me, the first pick would be the stainless steel, and the second pick would be able to handle the more, the more intensity of being élevage and oak. I think the wine comes across very fresh. So tell us about, what you get in this glass, because there's some really deep, rich flavors here, as well as I get that real fresh acidity that now that you're talking about these two picks of stainless steel, makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Well, that's the idea, trying to make a blend. And also in Pinot Noir has other component, which is very high, is very critical for us. It's trying to get a Pinot Noir, a soft Pinot Noir, which it's very important to have a soft tannins in the Pinot Noir, without using any kind of product to decrease tannins. It's a real challenge for us, trying to conserve the fruit, trying to have a rich, high acidity part. So yeah, we're trying to make a blend, trying to mix all these components. So I think it's very well done.
I think so. I think also one of the things I notice about Casablanca sometimes is that it's got that, especially from the eastern side, the dark fruit, the rich mouthfeel from clay. And I think one of the things that's interesting, clay and loam create more texture, right?
Sure.
With the wine, more structure, more richness. So that's something that I found very, very interesting. And then this pick and the stainless steel make a lot of sense. One question for you from my end. Talk about, Pinot Noir is a very fickle grape variety, and you farm this organically. So how does the quality, you feel the quality of, obviously the quality of grapes is better, but what does that bring to the bottle, the organic farming, to Pinot Noir specifically?
Well, Pinot Noir for us is a variety that is very difficult. It's very sensitive to the overproduction, It's, in organic farming, we have naturally a small production for hectare. We get that kind of naturally because we focus on the compost as an only nutrient that we can add into the vines. So the
compost, only compost to the nutrients. So no sprays that are not organic. And being in an environment like Casablanca, it's difficult with humidity, with mildew, with frost, with everything. So that's a risky game to play, but the reward is in the glass.
Yeah. Basically, compost is a degradation of the skins, the stems, and everything that we don't use in the past year.
We're reusing everything.
We use everything. So compost gives us a lot of different elements, in a small amount. More than applied one specific nutrient to one specific element. We add only many of them in a small amount. That helps us a lot to control the vigor, to control the production. So for that reason, we have a small quantity of grapes with a very good quality.
So one of the bloggers wants to know, you put Gran Reserva on the label. What does that mean, Gran Reserva, here in Chile? It's a broad question.
It's a kind of difficult to explain what is Gran Reserva. Can be many things. So we used to put Gran Reserva for the wine who has time in barrels. And better fruit. Yeah, sure.
And it's typically your third tier of wine.
Sure.
And it will carry a price tag of $15 to $25 retail.
It's not the entry level. It's not the reserve.
Yes.
It's ground floor.
That's a great question from the blogger. So in Chile, there's typically 4 levels of wine. There's the entry level, which is called varietal line or variety line. Then there will be a Reserva level, which is the next level. And then Gran Reserva is typically the third tier, which is a lot of wines we like to talk to you about, bloggers, because we feel these are some of the great wines being made in Chile. And above that, you have the
sometimes you have the single vineyards.
single vineyards, and then maybe
Maybe same level, but specific size.
yeah, specific. Cool. Thank you, Emilio. That was awesome. We'll come back around. We're going to move on, and I'm going to play the role of Adolfo Cortado or Matias Rios with Connoisseur. You can't have a conversation in Chile about Pinot Noir without Connoisseur involved. Would you both agree? I think what they've done with Pinot Noir has been really incredible, taking a stand with the Pinot Project and really putting a lot of effort into Pinot Noir and pushing the grape variety forward, I think, for all wineries in Chile. And one of the things that struck me about Pinot Noir from Connoisseur is that they work with a very well-known Burgundian consultant, Martin Prieur from Domaine Jacques Prieur. If you don't know Jacques Prieur, the estate holds vineyards in some Grand Crus, including Chambertin, Musigny, Echezot. I actually stood in the vineyard in Montmartre when I was in Burgundy recently, and it's amazing to me. And the story is such that Martin and Adolfo met in Burgundy in 1999, and Adolfo asked Martin to come over, which he did in the fall of 1999 to Chile. And Martin took a look around the vineyards, and what was most important to them was that the soil. Number one, and if you go to Burgundy, it's all about soil. Mother rock, the limestone, the mother rock, and it's all about planting. Pinot Noir grows there. It's been growing there for 1,000 or so years. So, and with what Adolfo said was it's not so much important to be like them, it's to find the best places to make great Chilean Pinot Noir and great New World Pinot Noir. And that was the goal. And when I asked him about it, it wasn't so much of Martin telling him how to make wine, it was about how to go about making Pinot Noir. And Adolfo was very humble in his comments in saying that he's embarrassed about the Pinot Noirs they were making in the early years because it was treated as a grape variety like Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot or Carmenere. And what Martin helped him do, and then I think was a bit of a ripple effect, was show them that Pinot is this delicate grape that needs to be planted in very specific spots, needs to be fermented in small open-top fermenters, needs to be very carefully moved around in the winery, if as little as possible. The macerations have to be perfect. The temperatures have to be perfect. You can't just put these wines into 100% big new oak barrels. You have to have a sensitivity to them, and it's very interesting. I think Connoisseur is a leader. I think here we have a different expression of Pinot Noir than the Novus or the Morande. Again, I think you get that beautiful, that beautiful toasted cherry. You get raspberry fruit, a lot of the red fruits. You get this beautiful spice. The one thing I think is a lot of the vineyards are maturing, are starting to become teenagers. Vineyards that were planted in 1998 or 9 or 2000 are starting now to become teenagers. And to me, that's where Pinot Noir starts to get exciting. 15 years old, 20 years old. Which is a lot to see in the future.
In Pinot you need old vines, but in Casablanca, in cold weather, it's hard to have old vines. I mean, the oldest vine in Casablanca are maybe 20 years old. Because the weather, because the frost, because the nematodes, because of many reasons, they decline. So 15 years old vine in Casablanca is quite old vine.
Yeah, for Pinot Noir, because there is some Merlot, there is some other vines that have survived, but Pinot Noir. Well, I think the 20 barrels is a flagship wine for them. They make a number of different Pinot Noirs, Connoisseur. I think this is a great example of Pinot Noir. Very correct to the variety, shows the texture that Casablanca can get. I think Casablanca gets really beautiful texture. I think it's somewhat similar dare I say, to Russian River to some degree, because there is that bit of dark cherry note, that cola kind of note that comes out. I think it's very different than Leda or Bio, and I think this is a lot of Casablanca can be a little more masculine style of the Pinot Noir.
Especially this more eastern, I guess.
Yeah, the eastern, the more clays, yeah, the first vineyards planted, the early vineyards.
And also, we can compare different vintages here. The Cono Sur is 2009, a sort of warmer vintage for Chile, even in cold climate. You can compare with 2010, was cooler.
Well, the same way, because, to me, Connoisseur represents, where the potential of Pinot Noir was there. And I think they did a lot of work to help move everyone in Chile. But we're going to move on to Morande. And Morande is a great story, which Ricardo can talk about. And we have the Morande Gran Reserva, the 2009. And, Pablo Morande, bloggers, if you don't know who he is, you should definitely Google search him right now and find out what he's done for the industry in Chile. He was the chief winemaker of Connoisseur, of Country Toro, making wines like Don Melchor. But he was the first to see the coast in Chile and say, hey, there's potential here. And it took him a while to get there. But I think he opened the door.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's really very interesting thing.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that and tell us a little bit about this wine.
Yeah, well, first of all, talking about Casablanca, there is an before and after Casablanca. Casablanca was first planted in 1982. And Pablo Morande, at that time working in Country Toro, invited Mr. Gillespie to join his adventure in Casablanca, and he said, forget it guys, you're younger than me, follow you, but I'm not going there. Because the climate was really extreme for our standards at the time, frost, etc. So there was no records about temperatures, raining, nothing in Casablanca.
And this is a very dry place, windy place,
yes.
No water.
No. So they arrived there and asked to the farmers, hey guys, what do you plant here? I don't know, do you plant asparagus here? No, because it gets frost too early. All right. And you have watermelon? Yes, watermelon is good. So that way was the idea to get an idea of what kind of climate they have there. So they planted in 82, many different varietals, most of them wrong. And then at the end of the 80s, they get more focused on white and Pinot Noir. Right now we're planting Chile. It's planting more Syrah, also Caprine, all these things. But it's focused, of course, in Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir. So it's from 1982 to now, Blanca opened the door for the cold climate areas. I'm talking about Leda, just for our friends, a few facts, generally speaking. But Casablanca, the maximum temperatures are a little higher than Leda, and the minimum are a little lower than Leda.
It gets very cold.
So in Casablanca, you have much more frost than Leda, and you get a little more high temperature. So the fruit there is a little more ripe fruit sometimes. Sometimes you have in Leda more asparagus type of Sauvignon, and in Casablanca a little more fruity. But it depends the area, because Casablanca is also a big area. So depending where you are located is different. Also in soil.
Did you get that, bloggers? Warmer days, cooler nights?
That's Casablanca,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, very interesting.
Another fact, we're in Casablanca, as Jimena said, planted at 20 miles from the ocean, but the coastal range at that area in Chile is really flat. So all the influence of the ocean arrived to the Casablanca Valley. But Marchihue in Colchagua is the same distance from the ocean, but the coastal range is so high that you don't get this, not as much as Casablanca ocean influence, so it's much warmer than Casablanca. So it depends about this stuff, so altitude of the coastal range. Talking about soils, the whole coastal range is basically granitic, poor clay, and some schist. So you have many very good type of soil. Not a lot of calcaric, but very interesting stuff for Pinot Noir. We're developing, many wineries are developing more in schist soil from Pinot Noir. So in the future you will see different styles too. So, in the coastal range of Maule, there's a lot of schist too. Well, I'm talking about this Gran Reserva Pinot, again, Gran
So
Reserva.
2 Gran Reservas in a 20 barrel.
Yeah, and a 20 barrel.
Sounds like a Mexican spaghetti western.
And you can compare two different areas of Casablanca. The 20 barrels is more eastern, the Morandé is western, very close from Viña Casablanca. And this vineyard used to be organic. So I don't know, don't ask me why, but when we develop organic this vineyard, the pH higher the acidity and lower the pH naturally. So we got a better balance in this vineyard than a not organic. So it's not organic anymore because the whole
So you have less acidity in organic.
more acidity.
More acidity.
Yes.
And low pH.
And low pH.
So very acidic, astringent.
I don't want to talk about stuff like pHs, but this is 3.0. Really, and it's good for me. In Pinot Noir, you need some acidity, some kick, some its richness. 2009 was quite warm vintage, so you have ripe cherries, nice rich wine, but also very good balance with nice acidity and freshness. It's very different in the style of the way that we winemaking of Novas. We do a very long post-malolactic fermentation, so at the end it's more than 30 days total. We do some punch down and also a lift in the winery, so we do the front covers with gravity, blah blah blah. The idea is to get as gentle as you can with that fruit. So more richness, more structure than usual, and this 2009. And then we use 600 barrels. So
Larger barrels, a typical barrique bloggers is 225 liters. You're using 500 and
almost double.
600, yeah. So more space for the wine to breathe and live, less oxygenation, less. Yeah. So one question I would open up to both of you. What is your definition of terroir in 10 words?
10.
10 words. For both of you.
You go first.
That's unfair.
No, I can go first. For me,
I feel like...
for me, terroir is a French concept, and I believe in that. For me, terroir is soil, climate, and culture. We're a young wine country, so no culture. But we have a way, but we have a way of making things. So it's the way that culture, climate, and the way that you culture, climate, and soil. And soil, Chile used to. We were working in technology, etc. In the beginning. Then now we're working in the vineyard, looking for specific sites, clones for this area. So we're getting more specific, more enter in the soil. And the soil wasn't as studied as it is right now.
Soil.
Yeah.
Soil, climate, culture. Tweet it.
That's for me.
That's awesome.
Terroir.
That's terroir. So in 10 words, times 5.
Our concept in terroir, it's basically, Emiliana has an idea, basically trying to close the systems, so minimizing all the inputs from outside. Ecosystem. Yes, exactly. So
Birds,
exactly.
plants,
So
insects, animals, humans.
for us, it's the concept of terroir. It's kind of similar to Ricardo, but our idea in trying to close the system is trying to minimizing all the inputs and avoid the standardization. So you don't use any commercial etc. Don't use fertilizer. So we're trying to create a terroir in every vineyard that we have. For us, this is one of the most powerful tools that we have, trying to create a specific terroir. So for us it's very important the soil, of course, because the weather, climate, etc. But also it's very important things that you add are coming from the same place when they used to be. Our points that we try to print in every wine. Of course, soils, weather, and also minimizing all the inputs and trying to conserve place, trying to have the wine. It's a real represent the unique expression of the place.
Unique expression of the place. I would add to that energy. To me, terroir is energy of the place and the ecosystem. In staying with the concept of my pairing a song, when I think of Emiliana, I think of Pearl Jam Alive, because organic energy in the world, you feel alive. So that was what I was thinking about for the Emiliana wine. For connoisseur, I was thinking for Pinot Noir, Radiohead. Everything in its right place, because Pinot Noir has to be in the right place. And working with Martin Perrier, putting Pinot Noir in its right place was a new step. We discussed that. And for Morande, so you planted this in 1982, but in 1981, the Rolling Stones had a song called Start Me Up. So I believe that Morande started up Casablanca. So I'm pairing that wine with that song, and I hope that Pablo would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Because he started something new. Yep. And he made a grown man cry. So, bloggers, please take Ricardo, Emilio, awesome, Pinot Noir. If you haven't tasted it, you have now. Lots of, we could talk forever on this. Very energetic conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right. So our next conversation is one that I think changed the landscape of Chile. I was talking to some of the winemakers earlier, and Grape Variety, we're going to move on to Esteem Carmenere. Is Carmenere a unique grape variety? Kind of a unique grape variety to the world until 1994, when it was rediscovered in the vineyards of actually one of the winemakers. Yeah, winemaker number one, just come up here and then we'll sit around. It was rediscovered in Chile after being thought to be extinct in 1994. It was planted amongst not just Merlot, but amongst Malbec, Cabernet, and other Bordeaux grape varieties. It was probably brought over here on a boat sometime in 1850 and just planted as a red grape. And then with phylloxera and oidium in Bordeaux, they chose not to replant it. But luckily, we have discovered it here because I think it's an incredible grape variety, very unique flavors, very interesting flavors. And, after 15 years, it's safe to say Carmenere has really hit the world stage, even to the point, we were talking a little bit about this, that winemakers in Bordeaux are starting to replant it themselves to experiment, to see what could be or what could have been. And I have three incredible winemakers here with us tonight. We have from Marquis de Capaconcha, Sebastian Rodriguez. Awesome, thank you, Sebastian, for coming with us tonight. We have Ricardo, Sebastian Lame, Sebastian, sorry. And we have Sebastian, and Cristobal. Yeah. So I want to thank these three gentlemen. We're going to have a really cool discussion. We just talked about Sauvignon Blanc. We just talked about Pinot Noir. And now we're going to dig into Chile's iconic grape, Carmenere. And you've noticed, bloggers, we're switching glasses, and we're using all Riedel tonight. I highly recommend Riedel. We're going to use the Syrah glass here for Carmenere. You guys excited about that? Awesome, right? A Burgundy glass. We use a glass for the Sauvignon Blanc. After all, Sauvignon Blanc does live in Bordeaux, so it's okay to do that. So we're going to taste first the Marqués de Capaconcha, the 2010 Carmenere from Payomo, a very, very unique microclimate for Carmenere. And I had a great discussion with Marcelo last time I was in Chile.
Right.
About Carmenere, about specifically Payomo and how special it is. So
Yes.
on that note, can you tell us a little bit about the site, a little bit about what's in the glass, what Carmenere should taste like, or what in your perfect world?
I'm talking about the Carmenere is a very special variety for Conchidoro right now from Pelmo. It's a very special place for Conchidoro. We have, the Carmenere, you need soft tannic, and we think in Pelmo we have conditions of soft tannic in the Carmenere and a slow ripening in the wine. So, but this wine, the first vintage for this Carmenere was in 2007, because we are working in plants, in some blocks inside Pelmo, and we are very happy with the results. This is a very special Carmenere for us. It's very, for me, and this is my opinion, and maybe for all the winemakers in Conchidoro, it's a very soft Carmenere and elegant. You have chocolate, you have black peppers and notes. So it's a very elegant Carmenere for say something.
Is it possible for Carmenere to be elegant?
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult variety to work.
Softer tannins than Cabernet, softer tannins than some of the other Bordeaux grapes.
Yeah, it's the last variety what we pick, so it's very difficult to maintain the plants to the end of the harvest. So, but I think in Pelmo we have a very good conditions to have a slow ripe in the grapes for Carmenere.
So when I visited the property, Marcelo was talking a lot about topsoil, subsoil, and that, and we'll get to that a little bit with the Cabernet too, about why Cabernet grows so well in Maipo, and in Cochabamba and Cochabamba, Cachapó. But there's something very unique about this site. And you make also, aside from the markets de Casa Concha, probably the wine that got me into Carmenere was Terruño. And also Carmenere Pelmo being the icon. But tell us a little bit about that the soil, like that top layer of soil that has the humidity. And then the Cachapó Mountain and the Cachapó River bring this kind of unique set of just the perfect kind of place for
in Pelmo, in general, we have a lot of clay, so it's a very deep soil. The Carmenere is very important. You can keep the water, you can have water retention inside because the roots grow very deep. So it's very easy to control the irrigation sometimes with this soil. And for the Carmenere, it's very important because you have to maintain the leaves in the plant to the end to May, so it's like November for you.
So very late.
Yeah.
Keeping the leaves on. They want to turn colors to fall.
So with that soil, it's more easy for us to control the irrigation. The plants are more balanced and during the harvest, so it's more easy to find the exactly moment to pick the grapes. So that's the condition of the soil on Pelmo.
Interesting. And what about the subsoil beyond that? There was something interesting about, then it needs space.
Yeah.
So you have the humidity keeping the water.
Yeah.
Then you have space.
Yeah. So the roots
you have
grow
granitic,
very,
you have the colluvial and alluvial soils underneath that give the roots the space to live.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And what about the influence? I'm going to talk a little bit, bloggers, throughout the next couple of winemakers and through Cabernet about rivers and mountains and wind and things like this. How does that affect?
Pelmo in general is a very special place because the influence of the river produce some little conditions to have many weather control.
for example, you never had frozen in Peru. So that's very good for the Carmenere because in May sometimes you have a lot of frost in Peru. That is one of the characteristics for the river influence.
Yeah, the wind keeps the frost,
Yeah.
but it also cools down in the summer,
Yeah.
which is I thought that was a very interesting thing that Carmenere's like Pinot Noir. It might even be more fickle than Pinot Noir in a way. Yeah, I think the more that I learn about Carmenere bloggers, the more I think it's more fickle than Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
And one interesting thing you said about the clay is bloggers. If you look at Bordeaux, there's what we call left bank and right bank, and the left bank is gravelly. The Gironde River pushes gravels to the left bank and alluvials to the left bank, but it's all clay on the right bank.
Yeah.
So clay is where Merlot runs.
Yeah.
So no wonder Carmenere was confused with
Yeah.
Merlot because it likes clay.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this wine to me, I always love what Conchitoro does, and Cachapua and Payomo, and to me this is one of the wines that got me into Carmenere. So thank you very much, Sebastian. This wine's great. Bloggers, awesome. So do you want to flip plate?
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
So Sebastian Labe from Carmen, the place where Carmenere was discovered and rediscovered by a great amphilographer, Jean-Michel Borsico. Bloggers, I highly recommend you this gentleman up. He's done wonders, and we were talking about how important he was to your country. But talk a little bit about, so the wine in our glass here, I'm going to pour out the Carmen here. Move into Colchagua Valley from Cachaqual.
That's right.
Thank you very much. And we're in Apalta, a place you may know from Apalta, from Casalapastol, maybe Montes, but Apalta is a very special place for a Carmenere. I've tasted amazing Carmeneres from Apalta, and it just thrives there. And tell us a little bit about what's going on here with this wine in Apalta 2010 Gran Reserva.
Yeah, well, Apalta has been, as you said before, it's a kind of a very respected place in Chile. Some of the best wines of the country are actually made there. And for us, actually, it made a lot of sense. We had a big property there. The focus actually was based in two varieties. One was and the other one was Carmenere. Carmenere actually came natural to us. Carmenere was rediscovered in our property. Actually, we feel that special link to the variety, and we need to actually, we feel really proud of that discovery that that happened in our place, and also about the variety that is very important to the Chilean industry, and I think it has a lot to offer more than that wines that were simple, that they weren't able to evolve well. Now I think we have shown the world that Carmenere it's a very strong variety, and they can produce outstanding wines. Here in Apalta, basically, soil conditions and the climatic conditions were telling us that there was an ideal place for growing Carmenere. Most of the older vineyards that are planted there were planted Carmenere 80 years ago.
Yeah, so Mayenne and Cleopatra.
Some of the older vineyards and some of the older grape growers there that they went to some of the other wineries. They have been producing for for a long time some very good high quality grapes.
And they thought it was maybe
Absolutely, it was.
But it's been there and it worked there, and that's what's amazing about the terroirs. Taking why has it worked here for 80 years, and how can we plant more in this kind of environment?
Exactly, and that's basically when we took the initial step of what to do for the future, and Carmenere being planted in different soil conditions, whether it be in the Granite hillside, then conquering the Piedmont and flat area. It's a very, as we said before, it's a very challenging variety to work with. I'm pretty sure, there's been a big change in the Carmeneres that you tasted 10 years ago and what you're tasting now. And now you can find a lot of, very good quality wine. You start seeing kind of the good side of the variety. It's a variety that needs as Sebastian said before, and it needs deep soils, high concentrations of clay, usually soils and clay that can dry out, especially by the time that you get into the veraison. So actually concentrate the plant in actually ripening the fruit and forgetting about the vegetative cycle. So if you have a soil that starts with good moisture, and then you have good signs of the soil drying out and sending stress signals into the berries actually onto the plant, then you actually start having a lot more energy to ripen all that fruit. And the deeper the soils they are, the root system tends to penetrate into the soil deeper and can have basically enough energy to withstand a very long ripening season. And that can really get rid of the green compounds, which is the biggest problem I think that we have in gardening.
Well, let's open that can of worms for a second and talk about what that's called pyrazine. It's a natural component, chemical compound that the father grape, Cabernet Franc, has brought to the children of Merlot, Sauvignon, Carmener. And those are, Cabernet Franc is the father of those three grape varieties. So if you love Chinon, if you love Bourgogne, you love the wines of, the Loire Valley, and you love, Right Bank Bordeaux, you're going to get those flavors.
And even no further than Sauvignon Blanc, for example.
Yeah, Sauvignon Blanc is the other parent of, the mommy of Cabernet Sauvignon. But it's very interesting, we talk about the flavors, but I think, in the right soils, I found that you don't really get those flavors so much. You start kind of changing it more. Yeah, it's spicy, but right.
You have to go changing and moving the profile according to the winemaking practices of your terroir, whether you want to get the more spicy side, the more fruity. But always in the background, there's a spicy things going there. It's either we cook tobacco or cinnamon, that more paprika side. Actually, on this wine, I think it's a ripe wine. Definitely, you get a lot of tobacco sensations and more earthy notes that you get from, especially in the Falta area. And let's talk about the piracy. Normally, it's very low. You're normally working any wines from 8 up to 15 nanograms per liter. You're able to spot it. And in Carmener, normally a ripening, you can have probably triple that amount. So you need to be able to degrade all that to show the good side of the variety, which is the volume in the mouth, the texture, the richness that it has. And then forget about the more vegetative character that we used to have, especially in shallower soils and rocky soils and soils that try to be.
Well, when you first had the grape variety, you didn't know you had it, and it was planted everywhere. So now it's about finding where it's making the best wines today, and then how can you take it and put it in the best soils for tomorrow. And I think that's really exciting. If you were to describe Carmener in a few words as flavor and texture, how would you describe it?
I think it's a rich wine with great texture and a lot of that kind of sweet, spicy notes. That's dominated. One of the problem and that it may have is actually the lack of acidity, because that very long ripening time that you need. But then either with planting in good sites, it can retain some good acidity, or you actually need to blend it with a 2 or 3% of something that actually can feel the last quarter of the mouth.
Cabernet or
Cabernet or Petit Verdot or Carignan, like in this case, for example. There's something a little bit that actually can hold the structure a little bit more and gives a better long persistence.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We're going to move on to wine number 3. Cheers. Cheers. Excellent. So we're going to move into a different spot in Colchagua. And bloggers, we need more questions. We want to hear your questions. We have awesome winemakers here. Great discussion happening. We want to hear your questions. They're ready.
We need questions to continue talking to you.
Yes, they're ready to go. So we're going to move on to the Coile Royale 2009 from Colchagua Valley, Alto Colchagua. You'll see that term, Alto, in a lot of labels nowadays. Maybe it's referring to Cachapal, Colchagua, Michael. Maybe you can touch upon that in a little bit. But you liked his wine so much you don't want to give it up.
I really like the Alto and
He's having a pulse of envy. Well, very special spot, this wine, and I'm very happy about the 3 Carmeners, because it's 3 of the terroirs that I've been told on every trip, every winemaker that I speak with. Los Mingues, Peomo, and Apolta are three of the best places for Carmenere. And you got lucky tonight, because we have those three here. And what you'll see, hopefully you're able to taste them together and see how different they are, but how beautiful this variety can be. So tell us a little bit about the property at Coile. You did some really interesting things there, a lot of intense soil studies to figure out why this plant works here. And tell us about the flavors here.
Yeah, if we have to start talking about the terroir, about the origin of these grapes, Fred, I want to say that Los Lingues is located, in the upper part of the Colchagua Valley. We are in the really foothills of the Andes, in the most east part, of the Colchagua Valley. For me, one of the main characteristics about our area, Los Lingues, is that this area, you have because it's located in the Andes side, almost in the foothills of the Andes. You are in the very limit of the ripeness for this variety. And for me, that means, that this grape is almost, thinking for this. I think Carmenere is a really done variety for Los Lingues, because it's just the time of ripeness, all the cycle of ripeness, Take the time, the exact time to ripe and have a very good season of ripeness, mostly, shorter than other areas as well, if we can compare with the other areas of the Colchagua Valley as well.
Is that the Andes influence? I
think there are a couple of interesting things in our place, because we are located in the Andes. The temperature, the oscillations, between day and night are quite high. In the day, we always, one of the characteristics that we have in our terroir is that the wind that we have every day is very windy. It's very windy, the area, and that permits, to don't go to high temperatures. It doesn't go. It's difficult to have temperature more than 30 degrees. Maybe a couple of days or 32, that should be around 90 Fahrenheit. And the duration of the day, and also the cooling at the nights, permit for the plant, that process, that step by step to ripe the fruit, in a good way. The plant, always are working little by little between day and night, and that thing, for me is one of the key points to ripe the Carmenere in the good way.
I'm familiar with Dr. Silva's Los Lingues. They said in their study, it was proven that almost a third of the quality of Carmenere comes from soil, of the quality of the grape, not the wine, but the grape. They said that an interesting fact was that 30% of the study was soil, of the quality, isolated block. And then it was ripening after veraison and other things. But how important to you is soil in Carmenere?
For me, maybe for the soil for the Carmenere is more than the 50%, in the portions. For me, it's very important,
More than 50%.
More than 50%, definitely. I'm very agree with both Sebastians, about the clay. If we have to talk about something important for the Carmenere, in general, for me, the soil is one of the points in any wine variety, In this case of the Carmenere, the clay really helps, to keep the humidity, to keep the water in the soil, That water that will be given to the plant, only to the plant, will permit, that ripeness, until the end. In our case, in April, May, we can harvest. For me, the soil, is really, really important, because you need for Carmenere good proofness in the soil. You need the roots need to be deeper, to go deeper, to search in the clay and also in the rock. In our state, one of the key points for me is also the rock that we have. We have mostly, volcanic rocks, also granitics,
and we are making different blocks. In general, we have 3 different terraces in our state, and these 3 different terraces moving depending the percentage of clay that we have. If we go into the flat area in the low part of the vineyard, we are moving between 30 to 35% of clay. We're going up, we're moving between 20 to 25% of clay. And after, going up, it's more rocky, more mineral at the final,
Well, it is.
So that's the key point.
And that's, your bloggers, that's one of the reasons why we're having this discussion tonight. And I think you see it with Sauvignon Blanc. We came back to this granitic soil on the coast, these friable granitics with pieces of limestone, calcare, and kind of, soils that really push acidity. We talked about Pinot Noir coming from slightly clay, but kind of red clay, oxidated soils. You'll see that if you go to Burgundy, you'll see the same thing. Or you think about Burgundy, Pinot Noir grows best in those oxidative clay type soils. Here we are, Carmenere, talking about a thick layer of clay with a lot of space for the plant to move. So, you want to say something? Let's talk about clays. We have just a minute or two. I feel like a moderator in a presidential debate. But let's talk about, instead of clays for a second, can you, in a few words, each of you talk about, you've tasted each other's wine. What's the difference, or what do you find from Alta to Pelmo to Los Lingues? So, take away the blogger, to take the bloggers, what do you taste in your wine? What do you taste in his wine? What do you... Let's talk about yours, the flavors.
Yeah, well, I think in mine I get, Fanta is something I go back and back to the same thing, that it's kind of that, strong, spicy, tobacco, but kind of that earthy note. The fruit's pretty ripe, but it's not as dominant. I think it's more like
Spice notes. Again, like smoke, camphor,
Spiciness.
that's spicy. I find Carmenere to be one of the most unique grape varieties in the world for that reason.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like Syrah meets Merlot to some level, but with a whole other level.
Definitely,
Absolutely. And what specifically to a Palta? Anything unique to a Palta that your wine showed that the other two didn't show?
I think one I get it also from a pattern that I really like. I also see it on the other two wines. It's actually the texture and the length of the wine. I think they're wines that are very textured, very fruit persistency especially on the back palate. I think there's and the difference between the two will be more in terms of the fruit, the fruit notes. I think in Pelmo you get more that more plummy blackberries, kind of a more darker fruit. And the other one is with very fine grained tannins. I think there are 3 great examples of how the impact of the soil is and climate. Basically, we're talking before terroir, like soil, climate, and human factor that's working that is well reflected in the three Carmeneres.
Excellent. Sebastian.
For me, the note...
They're very different. But they're all Carmenere. Again,
that's the thing,
The beauty of a wine.
Yeah, and this one, for me, in notes, you have prune and black pepper.
That prune, black pepper.
That's the two, And if you ask me for Pelmo, Pelmo, for me, is the soft tannins.
Soft tannins.
Yeah. It's incredible, but this is my opinion. This wine, for me, this is 2010 vintage, but for me it's too young.
Of course.
Maybe.
So how many years would this wine age?
It's a difficult question, but it depends of the harvest, or it depends of the year. But in general, for me, for this Carmenere is 10 years in bottle.
So there you have it. Marques de Costa Concha, 2010, drink in 2022.
Yeah, we have. We have
That's great.
We keep bottles.
Well, yeah, exactly, because I think one of the things about some of these wines is that they can age.
Yeah. So for me, Los Lindes, one of the key points, Fred, is the balance that we obtain from the fruit. I really concentrate on the quality of the fruit. We are farming, our 100% of the vineyard biodynamically, and that for me give us, all the balance in the fruit, the balance in the tannins, in the aromas, and all the native aromas from our area, We are trying to keep our origin, And for me, there are special aromas here that is very typical from the native oak forest from Chile, there are a couple of trees here that the name is the quillay or the boldo especially. Boldo is a very intense, aromatic, intense leaves, And that aromas you can find in this Carmenere, all the roundness of the tannin, the concentration, but also the silkiness at the final, give to this Carmenere, I think, a characteristic that is really to go today. And also a wine that you can hold for a longer, maybe 10, I don't know. We have to see, in the future, but it's a wine that you definitely have the balance, you have the acidity, and that will keep the wine for a longer, I'm very happy with this.
Well, we have speaking of biodynamic, we have a question for later on.
Okay.
We'll open it up to the group for you and Emilio, because I think some of the bloggers really want to know about that. So, yeah, we're going to move on, but I want to say that for Conchitoro, Toruño especially, that was my Dr. Feelgood, Kickstart My Heart, Motley Crue moment. Big production. I was a teenager in wine, and I heard that record, and it blew me away. And that was my first experience with Carmenere. So just that, if you look at that, big production. The Coile reminded me of Iron Maiden, Run to the Hills.
Yeah.
Go up to the hills, and and awesome, dark, inky. Some of the bloggers know that. And in Chile, you love metal and rock and roll.
Yeah,
So a little made effort. And the Carmenere was Aerosmith back in the saddle, because Carmenere at Carmen was put back in the saddle again. Little Aerosmith throw. So we're going to move on. Can you please thank these guys, bloggers? Thank you.
Yes, on the road,
We're going to move on to our Cabernet panel. I feel like Bill Maher now. So, well, they should love the Carmenere. Those were pretty awesome wines. Bloggers, keep your questions coming. I'd love to hear more. Hopefully you're having a good time. You've moved on to cheeseburgers, cheesesteaks, steak, roast lamb, great food. Excellent. So, thank you. Oh, you're such a sweetheart. So, are you from France? From so, this is for Jimena, white flowers. They gave it to the wrong person. So, Cabernet Sauvignon water has been a great variety that put Chile on the map as far as quality. It's a great variety that may have kind of lost a little touch in recent years in lieu of more exciting things, let's say like Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, Carmenere, Syrah. But to me, Cabernet Sauvignon is still the king of grape varieties, red grape varieties in Chile, still making some of the most incredible wines. And we're going to talk to these three gentlemen about why it's better than ever. We have Alejandro Joffre from Lucky to start us out. We have Felipe Toso from Ventisquero to lead us in the middle. And we have Marcelo Gallardo from Los Vascos to tell us and taste with us why Cabernet is still king in Chile. So, you guys ready?
Ready.
Awesome. It's been waiting there forever. So.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
That means you've had more wine than anyone tonight.
Absolutely.
So we're going to start off tonight with the Maquis 2010 Cabernet Sauvignon from the Colchagua Valley. An interesting little spot. We talked a little bit about rivers, and you're between two rivers, and you're in Colchagua, which we talked a little bit about. So Alejandro, just jump in there and tell us a little bit about we're going to talk about Colchagua twice, but why is this particular spot, the Maquis spot, so special for Cabernet? And tell us a little bit about what's in the glass.
It is wine 11 that you're starting with instead of 10 to split out water.
Bloggers, we're starting with Maquis instead of the gray from Ventisquero, so cue up your Maquis Cabernet Sauvignon from Colchagua. So,
Okay. Well, Maquis is a very special place, I think, in Colchagua, because it's a vineyard that's located between, so it's surrounded by two rivers, by Chimbarongo Creek and the Tingirica River. So there are very big water paths and in the Colchagua Valley. So that allow us to have more fresh, have different soils, lower temperatures, lower maximum temperatures than the rest of the valley. So what we want to make, our philosophy as a winemaking and in the vineyards, try to focus on the viticulture, try to get a lot of fruit, freshness, lower alcohol, trying to get balance, but a natural balance in the vineyard. So that's why we think, and I believe personally, that Maquis is a very special place.
super excited cu wine, vai ser muito bom.
In the glass, we have a Cabernet Sauvignon 2010, which is, I think in the nose, has a lot of red fruit. We try to keep the fruit, try to protect the fruit. That's why we're making a lot of early picking, so we have very better skin. We do, on the winemaking, we do short macerations. We try to not cover the fruit with wood. So we use at the most 40% of this wine in barrels. We age in barrels. The rest gets stainless steel tank. Just to keep elegance, to keep the fruit and reflect the place that we think it's very special, like I said, which is this place surrounded by the river.
So we were talking about clay earlier,
Yeah.
and there's obviously some clay in your vineyards because you make some great Cabernet.
Yeah.
But what about the place where your Cabernet grows, where you have more of this kind of left bank, alluvial, gravelly soil?
Well, this wine, it's a single vineyard wine, so it's a special block we selected for this. We think that clay is very important for reds. It's very important for elegance in the tannins. We think for Cabernet Sauvignon, we have 25 to 30% of clay in the profile of the soil. It's very nice. It's very different for other varieties that we have in the same state, like Cabernet Franc or Carmener. We think on those varieties we need more clay to get elegance. So this
Going with the right bank concept of, Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Carmener, going in the right bank,
yeah.
Cabernet needing more gravel.
Yes, Cabernet Sauvignon also, this special plot has a lot of gravels. So on a different depth in the soil, we have gravels 1.2 to 1.8 meters. So we have very good drainage. That allow us to do the early pickings that we are talking. We have very low nitrogen contents also in the soil. So that's
Cabernet likes low nutrients.
Yeah, low nutrients.
Pinot Noir needs a
gravel.
little bit more nutrients, and Carmener needs a little more nutrients.
Yes.
So that's an interesting thing, and that's kind of, we're cracking the code a little bit here. We're cracking why these terroirs are working for Chile in a certain way. So that's awesome.
Yes, so like I was saying, the gravels for us is very important, the good drainage, the clay. Also, we manage the vineyard, the irrigation. We try to get pyracins out of the berries very early in the season, so we can have lower alcohols and do the early pickings that we're making. And that allow us to have very fresh aromas and good acidity, natural acidity. We don't correct anything on the cellar. So that's pretty much the winemaking that we're making, our philosophy at least.
Excellent. And if you could describe your wine in a few words,
I think the
flavor,
I think the nose is, we have a lot of freshness, red fruit, very complex. I think we have a very good balance with the oak that we're using. 40% of the wine goes in its age in French barrels. We were using third use and fourth use French barrels, so probably it's a good balance. We're very happy for that. And the mouthfeel, I think it's very elegant. It's very complex. It's very deep. Wine, what we are looking for in the mouthfeel is the meat palate, to get the full body in the meat palate. And I think it's probably, I think for me it's very well done, at least.
Well, I think moving from Carmenere to Cabernet, you can see, bloggers, the difference in texture, and it's not because he is making more tannic wines. It's that Cabernet Sauvignon inherently, as a grape variety, just has much more phenolic skin, more layers to the skin, which create this more textured wine, a wine that can live for a longer time too. And that's why the great Bordeaux, the great Cabernets from Napa, and some of the great wines from Chile, the Don Malturs and these old school wines can live a very long time, which is what Cabernet's calling card. So thank you very much. So Felipe, we're going to move on to the Ventisquero, the gray. Guys ready?
Right, okay.
So,
Yeah, it's from Maipo.
yes.
This Cabernet is from Maipo, and when you were talking about like the king, and you were saying that we were not showing too much Cabernet Sauvignon.
Well,
I think it's because maybe because we were like wanting to show other things.
Yes, but I think that Maipo, you're stealing one of my quotes, but Cabernet is king, and Maipo is its throne to some degree. So Maipo has always been talked about as the great place for Cabernet. And you have the alluvial and colluvials colliding and having a perfect spot for Cabernet to thrive. And it was the first place where some of the first wineries came about in the late 18th century. So I think it's very exciting, Cabernet, more so than ever. And you also have a lot of new friends to play with, like Carmenere and Syrah and Petit Verdot.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
it's interesting because this Cabernet Sauvignon Blanc, Cabernet Sauvignon, sorry, is not the classical Alto Maipo or the Maipo Andes, as we should call. We're much more to the coast. So we're about 30 miles to the coast. So we have an influence of the coast, not very big, but we do have. So we have like cooler mornings with a little bit of fog, maybe a third of the days. And we're planted on a very soft hillside. So normally Chile, the classical Cabernets are in a flat area, a lot of alluvial soil, a little bit of colluvial. This is completely colluvial. Well, colluvial means stones from the hillside. And it's like when you go to Burgundy, in terms of a very soft soil, hillside, and it's in the middle part, and it's a long, long block. So this is a single block because it's just one block, like your single vineyard or...
And the name of the vineyard is Trinidad.
It's Trinidad.
Yes.
Okay, so and that's where the winery is. And it is, first, very good drainage, colluvial stones, and granite. And in about clay, I have very little clay.
Oh, yeah?
I have about 15% of clay only. Okay, so because of this, you have to be very careful in how you irrigate. But because we're a little bit more to the coast and have fog in the mornings, we don't have to irrigate that much. Because a little bit, we have like a forest on the top of the hillside. We have this typical Chilean forest. So it's a little bit more humid than other areas of Chile that are a little bit more dry in terms of the area. And 2009 as a vintage was a warmer vintage of I would say 2008 and 2009 are warmer vintages. 2010 will come 6 months more, and it's a much cooler vintage, and you can notice this. And because of this, we use a little bit more Petit Verdot than normal. Okay, this year has about 6% of Petit Verdot, and that is not so usual. It's the first time I use so much Petit Verdot on it.
That's interesting. I think, good question. Glacier. What's the meaning of that on your
Yeah, well, Ventisquero as a name means glacier. Okay, and in a certain way, gray glacier, so the Ventisquero Gray, is one of the most amazing glaciers in the Chilean Patagonia, in the south of Chile. It's just in honor of the Patagonia. It's just a name in honor of the Patagonia. I don't have any vineyard in the glaciers.
Yes.
No yet. Not yet.
Well, in Italy they call it fantasy.
Yeah,
So that's your fantasy name. If you drink Barolos and other things, it's a fantasy name. I think this is interesting because it seems this wine's very elegant for Cabernet, and this is more towards Isa de Maipo, even further west.
Yes, further.
Yes.
We're about 40 kilometers more.
More. Yeah, so you're 60 kilometers from...
I'm really near. In half an hour, I arrive to San Antonio.
Yeah, so this is very cool climate.
Very cool climate for
Cabernet.
Cabernet.
For Cabernet in general. So that's an interesting thing. And how do you think Cabernet behaves aside from talking about soil? How does Cabernet behave in a cooler spot versus, the Andes spot with the same kind of drainage, the same kind of structure of soil?
It's tougher because Cabernet needs a little bit of sun.
Needs heat.
Needs heat. So, but not too much also. Well, one thing is that first our ozone hole is a little bit bigger today, so we have a lot of sun anyway. Just the afternoon sun is enough. But what we have to be really important is to control the yield. So we cannot have high yields. Yields have to be very, very low. Also, the density of plantation here is about 5,000 plants per hectare, so it's 2 per 1. So we have a higher, medium-high density.
So the plants compete for food and makes them stronger, and producing less.
And then this hillside that is a little bit of granite and stones makes it a very low in nutrient soil. So all that stuff, and these vines are already about 14 years old. I would say the first 8 years old, Cabernet didn't perform as it's doing today. So there's been a lot of work in having a little bit of time to get this
15
wine.
years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were talking about that, in Casablanca, the importance of vine age in Chile.
Yeah.
We've tasted some, Carmeneres with maybe a little bit more vine age, some Pinots, and that's really part of Chile's growing up right now. You're a teenager.
Absolutely.
In the wine industry.
But Cab is almost...
Some of the Cabernet vineyards are very, very old.
Very old.
Which we'll talk about in a second. But very, very
We'll leave it to this side.
So a couple of flavor profiles, textures from this wine before we move
Look,
on.
I always say I'm a winemaker. I'm not a sommelier. And I'm not a poet. There's some winemakers that are very good poets. To me, it's a wine of some tension in the palate. It's like a little bit of nerve. You can feel the tannins. But also we look for soft tannins. Aromatically, it has a little bit of this type of red fruit, quite typical for Cabernet. But it also has some spices. And we were talking about these boldo trees and all that. I always feel a little bit of this. Chile always has a little bit of this green, leafy stuff. But it's not about our mature. It's about our country.
It's about the plants that exist.
Exactly.
And
it's about terroir.
Terroir.
Yeah.
Yes. And also plants like lavender or the tree, the coile trees or the boldos trees, the native trees.
And also that we're Latins. People have to know that we're Latins. We're not. We like spices. We like to dance. We like spicy, and our wines are living for spicy. Exactly. So we're not Bordeaux. Chile is quite unique in its Cabernet. In Chile, people don't know, is maybe the country that has more Cabernet Sauvignon in percentage of their own plantings than any other country in the world.
Yeah, self-rooted.
Yeah.
Yes, self-rooted Cabernet in the world than anywhere else. On that note, Felipe, great. You were a poet.
No,
I'm going to move on to Marcelo. Marcelo, can you move at least in the middle?
In the middle.
Bloggers, we've just talked to 11 10 amazing winemakers. We're going to finish up with a great wine, Los Boscos, La Ladite, an icon wine, an import of sorts. From a French family, and there's influence, I believe, everywhere in Chile with consultants and with curious winemakers coming around from California, from France, from Italy, from Germany, from Spain, Miguel Torres from Spain, et cetera, et cetera. Chile's a place where
Can you guys hear us now? Can you guys hear us? Okay, we are back. This is Morgan. I am going to move the computer over.
Well,
all right, here we go. Last wine.
Thank you for your patience. We're back for more. And if you know who sang that song, I'll give you $10 tomorrow. So, Marcelo Gallardo, tell us about your property, about the evolution of the Lafitte family coming over, and Ledis.
Yes. Ledis means the 10 in English. It says, we created this wine in order to commemorate 10 years of Domaine Baron de Rothschild in Chile. And we begin with this project in 1991, but only released the real wine in 1996. Don't produce this wine in 1998 and in 2005. But that's begin the project in 1996 to 2012. We have this wine. The wine, especially this wine is coming from the vineyards. It's very old, now 80 years old.
80-year-old vines.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
as we were talking about.
Yes, and the yields is
Cabernet mostly.
Yes, the base is Cabernet.
Self-rooted.
Until 2004 was only Cabernet Sauvignon, but now we begin to make this wine in 2006 with a blend. The base is 85 is Cabernet Sauvignon, but 10% is Carmenere and 5 is Syrah, because we have a very special terroir, and the Carmenere is the new flag. Why not to put it to the blend? But it's very nice for the wine. But and the yields is about 5 and 6 tons per hectare, and we have the same density that the other Cabernet Sauvignon, like a 5,000 plants per hectare, and we pick by hand. And the vinification is very, very soft. Don't make too much extraction about the wine. And the principle of the soil is the base is clay. It's very different to the stone side or the gravel side to the classic Cabernet Sauvignon from Chile. But the style of the wine at the end is very close to the house of Lafitte in France, but it's not the same wine. The idea is not to produce the same wine, but to maintain the style with the quality of the tannins, the elegance, the fineness of the wine. At the end, I think it's okay. It's a Chilean wine, but the base is Cabernet Sauvignon. We use material from France, technical from France, and the barrels are coming 100% from the village of Lafitte. At the end, the style is very close to the Lafitte wine.
So how long will this Ledis age?
In barrels is
well, no, in the bottle, 2009. How long would you think this wine could age?
When we made this
from
wine,
a question from a blogger.
For you?
For them.
For them.
Not for me.
For you.
I could guess.
Okay.
A Robert Parker guess from 2025 to 2045.
Okay, my friend. For you, is when we make this wine, we're thinking about 10 or 15 years for aging for this wine. But I think the potential for this wine is, but it's ready to drink. But the tannins for this wine are very friendly. It's approachable wines, but the potential is 10, 15, no problem with the wine.
I like that answer. I think one of the things, bloggers, you have to see is I think a lot of these wines can age. Even the Sauvignon Blancs could age 2, 3 years or 4 years. The Pinot Noirs could age 4, 5, 10 years. The Carmenères 10, 15. The Cabernets 15, 20 plus. There's potential for aging, but what you said was beautiful. These wines are made to drink. That's the Chilean fruit. That's what the fruit of Chile gives you, wines of generosity. So I like that you kind of like said, drink this now because you'll be happy.
Yeah, because we are working a lot. Oh, my glass, sorry. Because
Are
we
you
working-
inspired by any
Yes.
regions in the world? They want to know.
Obviously, in Boyac.
Peralillac.
We call Peralillo Peralillac.
Yes. Well, what about so with Cabernet with you guys? Are you inspired by other regions as well, or you work with John Duval from Australia, from Penfold? I mean that has its merits. Are you inspired by Australia at all? Coonawarra, these cool like ocean influenced Cabernet. That's Coonawarra, Barossa.
Yeah, but today not really. I think you travel a lot and you taste a lot of wines, but then we are Chileans, so. I've been to Bordeaux several times, to all these places, Napa, but finally you're Chilean, and you have this Chilean heritage of, I say, the boulders and stuff, and your granite that is everywhere in Chile, like the calcare in other countries, we have granite everywhere in our stones. So no, I'm inspired in ourselves.
Inspired in ourselves. That is a great, great, great quote. Do you have one last word of
even though we are our consultant is a French guy called Jacques Boissonneau, probably
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
And where's his specialty? Bordeaux.
Bordeaux.
Okay.
Lafitte, he's making all those wines.
It's very famous.
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
But he's our consultant, but we try to reflect the place. I think we believe in Maquis, that it's very special here, so we try to reflect that, but we want to keep the elegance. We want to keep like the special of those wines from Bordeaux. But I'm not trying to get influence from him. I'm trying to learn about him, but try to reflect the place that we think is very special, which is Maquis.
Awesome. Well, bloggers, I think you see a very similar thread of continuity, whether it's Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, Carmenère, or Cabernet Sauvignon. It's about terroir. And one of the great things is that these ladies and gentlemen work with people around the world. You travel around the world also. This is the Southern Hemisphere, so it allows them to go north. It allows the Northern Hemisphere to come south. And those ideas meet here in Chile with great sunlight, great soils, great climate, and great winemaking from this team. We're going to open up the discussion. Remember, bloggers, keep the hashtag #BlogChile going. Keep the chat board going. Keep the conversation going. We really appreciate you, your patience with us and staying with us through. There's always little technical difficulties, but you all have great wine at home, friends, family, great food. So you're probably having a great time anyway. I wish I was in all 50 of your homes, and so do these ladies and gentlemen. I just want to make one little Cabernet pairing, and I'd like to bring up the winemakers. If you could kind of organize yourselves somehow, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, Carmenère, and we're going to open it up to the group, and we're going to take some group discussions. But before that, so Maquis is like purple haze, man. That's Jimi Hendrix, Colchagua, dark fruit, purple fruit. You get that violet. So to me, Jimi Hendrix, Colchagua, Carmenère, for Ventisquero, to me that was rock and roll all night. That was Kiss. Maipo has the rocks. Kiss has Maipo has the rocks. It's all about the alluvial, the colluvials. What better rock band than Kiss? Rock and roll all night. Party every day with some Cabernet. No pun intended. And last but not least, I had to go to Led Zeppelin. And one of the greatest songs of all time is Whole Lotta Love. And I think for the money, we didn't really talk about how this compares and how Chilean wine in general compares to some of the other places in the world. Yeah. But you know what the cost of your sister winery is in France for that bottle of wine. I think the Dietz offers a whole lot of love for the price. So we're going to open up the group discussion. So if everyone can kind of organize, we're going to take some questions. I would like to field first, though, the biodynamic question. And maybe if I can get Emilio and who is, Cristobal. And let's talk biodynamics quickly. Come on up, everyone. So biodynamic farming in Chile. Talk a little bit about that. How important it is to Chile? Does it mean something to the wine?
For me, mainly, Fred, if we're talking about biodynamic in our way, it's the way that we are searching. We are trying to search the best expression for the region from our place. Working today conventionally, or any other method, you have plenty of great wines, but we are trying to keep, the region, the sense of the place, and the way to take out the standards way, that mostly of the chemical product that is using in the industry, are, for me, is standards is going to make a more standard way to produce, in the organic way or biodynamic, we are trying to keep the region, to trying to say that the earth can talk, can express
the
itself.
Earth can talk.
Can express
Beautiful.
itself, Yeah, that's for me the main thing about it.
Yeah, I agree with Cristobal. And for us, it's a very important thing to have an identity from our place. That's the key for biodynamic, and also for us and for biodynamics is considering social component. It's very high.
Social component,
Yes.
the people, the earth, the environment.
Exactly. The people involved in all the process, trying to get involved with the people truly. So it's a very important thing to. For one hand, you have the identity of the place, trying to close the system, trying to adapt all the cycles to the moon, using the preps, trying to, for us, as I say, the campus is very important. We use a lot of preps for that, made in the same place, trying to minimize all the things, but also it's very important to consider all the people, all the social components in our place.
I think that's very interesting. You use the term close the circle. What I understand is, the compost, everything, biodynamic is a bit complicated, but at the end, it's closing the circle of life for all parts of life.
Definitely for me, sometimes we are afraid of
opening the bottle to a new life.
And also, people is afraid sometimes to go in, new things, like organic or biodynamic, but going in, and practices. Finally, you are understanding the cycle of the life, the cycle of the insects, the cycle of the weed, the cycle of the vines, and also an important thing that you say, Emilio, the people, the people who is working every day in the vineyard, who is feeling the sun, who is feeling the plants, who is feeling the soil.
That's a very good point.
That is a very important point when you're talking about terroir, because terroir is not just the plant.
Because they're part of it.
Exactly.
It's
not the vine, it's not only the soil, it's not only the soil, the weather, it's all the ecosystem, and we are in that, and that's, I think it's one of the great things about it.
Oh boy, that was a funny question. So if you could, I'm going to volley this back. If you could pose a question to one of your colleagues, what would you ask one of them, or two of them?
Okay, great.
Be nice.
So
I don't have nothing to think
since we have, we could take two more questions and then we have to sign off here. So maybe I'll grab 2 or 3 more people, ask a question to the group that really pertains to what's next in Chile. What's happening? What's the future?
So Mr. Toso, I want to ask about what is your experience to work with the Aussie, with the Aussie winemakers,
That's a great question.
The Aussie experience and the Chilean tradition. What is your feeling to work in that feeling, Felipe?
I think one of the first things when you start to work with an Aussie is that you have to drink a lot of beer to make wine. Okay.
And you have to drink a lot of beer to serve wine.
Also,
As a sommelier, I would attest to this as well.
John is a classical Aussie from the old days, Grange Penfolds, and he's very classical. People think about maybe what happened with all the Australian wine, some very big white wines, but John is absolutely on the other way. So he came here to be very respectful, and he didn't come to make an Australian wine in Chile, and you can see it in the wines. The ones you just tasted.
Very elegant Cabernet. Very elegant
we
Cabernet.
work together that wine, and he doesn't come to do Aussie wines in Chile. So it's very important. Thank you for the question. But I think we have to learn from all the terroirs, and I think the Aussies are making today amazing wine. They're rethinking their country, and it's exactly the things that we're doing today in Chile also.
And now they're learning from you, in a certain way.
A little bit. Everybody learns from the other.
Exactly. So if you can volley a question to someone else. Oh, what is your favorite Carmenere pairing? So let's take a Carmenere winemaker. Anyone? Sebastian squared? Well, what is your favorite food? Let's say you're drinking the Apalta, this particular wine, the Apalta Carmenere. And you're tasting it, and you say, geez, I wish I had this to eat.
I think there are two things I always look for, curries.
Curries.
Indian cuisine tend to go very well.
Excellent.
And also Patagonian lamb on spit tends to go very well too.
Excellent. So some of you bloggers are all over the country. Maybe you're in Arizona, maybe you're in New Mexico, Texas. You might have a spit. Roast up some lamb. Heavily season it though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like heavily season it, rosemary, herbs, mercan. You should get a little spice called mercan, which is a native Chile to Chile that's been smoked. It's beautiful flavors. So let's take the other Sebastian. What would you? So this is really important for the bloggers. What do you eat with Carmen? When you taste Paolo Carmenere, what do you?
Right. I'm not a sommelier, but I'm a winemaker. But it's a difficult question. But for me, it's a spicy meal. For Peru.
Carmenere.
Spicy.
Yeah.
Maybe Mexican food or.
Yeah, I love Mexican food. Carne asada. Tacos with like a spicy meat.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my idea.
Is there any outside the box pairing, like something that you would never think about?
Maybe some kind of pasta.
Pasta.
Yeah.
So with red sauce. Though.
Yes.
Yeah. Meatballs, spicy meatballs. Excellent. So bloggers, winemakers, what a night. What a night. Anyway, I want to thank all the winemakers. I want to thank Jimena from Viña Casablanca, Gonzalo from San Pedro. I want to thank Arnaud from Casa Silva, Emilio from Emiliana. A lot of people to thank. Ricardo, thank you from Morande. Sebastian from respectively from Cachitoro and Carmen. I want to thank Cristobal from Coile from Cochagua. I want to thank the Cabernet team of Alejandro from Marques, Felipe from Betisquero, and Marcelo from Bordeaux Superior. So remember, bloggers. This has been a fun night. It's been a crazy night, and we've had a lot of fun. Please remember to keep your tweets going on the hashtag #BlogChile, @DrinkChile. Make sure you keep your chat board going. We really, really appreciate you joining us tonight. I want to thank the team here in Santiago. There's been a ton of people involved in this. The Hotel Gen Suite, Wines of Chile here in Chile, everyone involved with this. All these winemakers who have traveled far and wide from Chile. There were car crashes on the road for them to get here. Wine sent, last minute. It's been pretty great day. Thank you very much for taking your time out. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your time. So this has been an awesome, rocking good time. I haven't been able to see the tweets, but I look forward to seeing them all. We're going to sign off from Santiago, Chile. Good night. Buenas noches. Salud. Thank you very much.
And just one thing, Fred, in the name of this group of winemakers, thanks for your energy. And cheers.